so this is version 0.0.2 of BreakChopper. So I will go through some of the new features, but let me go over what BreakChopper is again, because I don't think I really covered that in the first video. BreakChopper is essentially an application that takes any audio file and allows you to reorder components of it, sections of it, whether it be based on a grid, based on the transient, or all of these sort of probability-based models. I've expanded them away from just the four. We've added a few, which I'll talk about in a second. I've moved some graphical elements around. That's all pretty boring. But we can now save paths as defaults, and show in Finder. We can see where our output is from within the app. And I've also put a help file up here, which goes through somewhat detail, in a degree of detail for the chop models and some other bits and pieces. But we'll get to that in a second. So essentially, we've got some loops here, and you run the BreakChopper algorithm by clicking on generate. You can change how many slices this will break up the audio file into. So in a 2-bar loop, 16 slices means that you've got every 8th note in grid mode is chopped up. But when it's in transient mode, that's a little different. What it's going to do is look for the 16 most prominent transients throughout the audio file and then break the audio up in that way. Now, if you've got a very regular 16th note hi-hat pattern, there's going to be no difference between that in grid mode and transient mode. But with drums, we've got some sort of groove going on there, as opposed to in grid mode, it will just chop them up specifically on each 8th note when you've got 16 slices. Variations is the number of variations you would get. So here in the variations section, if we click 4, you'll get 4. Pretty straightforward. The other grid modes, I'll go into the help file to explain. Chop models. So grid is pretty much, as I said, it's evenly spaced slice regions. And transient looks at the energy in the source and favors attack points over fixed spacing. The next two were in the first version. So Cage introduces some chance-led duration weighting and phrase shifts. Xenakis pushes a denser stochastic approach. So you get clustered activity, abrupt contour changes, and mathematically skewed rhythmic distribution. Yeah, so if you know the work of John Cage and you know the work of Yannis Xenakis, you know how they are quite different in terms of how they present their aesthetic. And I tried to get a flavor of that in the two models. Glitch is very much what it says. It's a digital style distribution. So you get slices that are pitch shifted up and down, micro detuned, stutter repeated, and occasionally reversed. It's a glitch. It works in that way. We can have a listen in a second. Now, the next few, I've tried to have a little bit of fun here. Yes, they're based on the work of, Alphex is FX Twin, Autaka is Auteka, Broad Camera would be Boards of Canada, and Sachet would be DJ Sasha. So now, I want to be clear here. You can't use these four models and expect to get drums that sound like each of those artists. If you use Alphex, you won't sound like Richard D. James. It's not going to work that way. What I tried to do was take something of the way in which those artists approach their rhythmic construction, and it's as a point of inspiration more than anything. So Alphex favors fast pivots, short repeated figures, and aggressive redirection. Autaka leans into interlocking cycle lengths and offset recurrences. Broad Camera emphasizes motif memory and slow drift, and sachets built around forward momentum and phrase punctuation. They're just different ways of approaching the redistribution of the different elements of the loops. So hopefully people have a bit of fun with it, and by all means get in touch and tell me in the comments what you like and what you like to use them on, or what you think needs to change. Totally open to that. The next thing to talk about is mashup mode. Now, mashup mode, I think, is going to be the most interesting part of this application, because you no longer chop based on one loop. You can take multiple loops, and so here we've got 4. And so when I click generate now using grid mode, it's going to create some generated variations that are made up of all of the components of all of these loops reordered and messed around. So if we take this one here, and if we do this with glitch, for example, with glitch you can change the glitch amount. I thought that would be useful. We drop the glitch amount down. You get the idea. Now, I'll leave these alone for the moment, but you can, once it's released, you can have a little bit of a play around with it. We'll keep some of the mystery. Other than that, we're pretty much, it's pretty straightforward, I think. You can go in and select which ones you wish to export. So if we go select none here, and then we click on, let's say, click that one, we just want to export that one. It's now exported, and we go show in Finder, and you can see that it's just appended this one here. Oh, on the naming convention, what it will do is take the source name, add an underscore bchop, then underscore the chop model and whatever the suffix is on the, so in this case it was 02, so it's added 02. I might change that at some point if it becomes annoying. The last thing I want to talk about here is the seed model. And in order to do that, let's get out of glitch, let's get into grid, and let's just get out of mashup mode and go to that. Okay, so a seed in this context will allow you to repeat the way in which the generate function works with the audio file. So probably the best thing to do here is to put in a value. Let's put in 1024 and click generate. If I click generate again, it's going to, and I haven't changed the audio file, it generates the same thing. There are hundreds of thousands of different variations that could occur here. If you have seed empty and you keep clicking generate, you're going to get different outcomes every time. The chances of you getting the same outcome 2 times in a row, you have more chances of winning the lottery. There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of options, but seed is a way you can exert some control over that by saying, okay, we want this specific slice approach. And say, for example, you liked something in Street Beat 01, but you wanted to take an element out. You go into something like Wavelab, take an element out, keep the loop the same length, and then bring it back in and use the same seed value. And so say, for example, you didn't like this bit here, you just go in with your DAW or Wavelab or whatever, delete that, bring it back in, and then run it again, and you would get a version that is identical. So wherever, let's say this bit here went down here, that would now be empty. You see what I mean? Like, it allows you to have some authorship, I guess, over what BreakChopper does. But this was really conceived as more of an indeterministic, sort of stochastic, probabilistic based approach. So I suggest people use seed, don't use seed and leave it blank. And that way you get something new every time. And then you might find that you really like the first half of this loop. So you would export it, drop it into Ableton, Logic, or Pro Tools, and work with that. Essentially, BreakChopper is a little ideas factory. It's a little creation station where you get things that you wouldn't otherwise get. You know, we can all chop audio up on a timeline in our DAWs. What this does is it sort of automates the random ideas generation component of that process. And you can be more sort of architectural in your approach. You can be more like an architect and less like a builder. So when I was coming up with this, these applications that I've been writing are sort of the basis for a PhD project looking at authorship in the days of AI. And the idea is that you don't need to know how to build an engine in order to drive a car. And I'm really interested in where authorship and agency is located. That's sort of what these applications are designed to do. This might sound a bit academic, but anyway. Shut up, James. Just let me chop my audio up. Anyway, I hope people like this video. It's gone on a little longer than I intended. I'm going to try and get this out of alpha stage into beta and make it available to people quite soon. And if you're interested in it, by all means comment and let me know what you're liking about it. And if you've got any features that you think should be in it, if it's not too difficult for me to do, remember I'm not the most brilliant of coders, but I'm doing my best here with leveraging some of the tools we've got available today. I'll give it a go. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.